All right, joining us now from Americans for Prosperity, Jacob Fish. Jacob is their Director of Grassroots Operations. Hey, Jacob, great to have you with us, man.
Hey, good morning, John. Thank you so much for having me on.
So, Jacob, look, before we even get into your endorsements, right, we have to deal with another fake, phony poll coming out of the Wasson Center for Public Policy at Christopher Newport University, Jacob. And I just want to tell you, this is going to get picked up in all of the legacy media today, and all the headlines are going to be, according to the Wasson poll, Republicans have zero chance of winning any of the House seats that are competitive. They're going to get destroyed. Why bother to work? Stay home. Don't do anything. Don't knock on doors. Don't make phone calls. Don't come to the office. Don't try to talk to your friends. It's too embarrassing. Just stay home. That's the purpose of these, all right? It is an extension of the lying fake news media. So now they have a poll come out again that they manipulate the way they push the questions in order to get the result that they want. So, Jacob, before you even give me your endorsements, that is what we're going to have to deal with in Virginia again.
Well, John, obviously there's a lot of eyes on the races this year, and so it makes sense there's a lot of attention being brought to what we're trying to look at here. Honestly, I haven't got a chance to look at the polls yet. We were super busy last week engaging with a lot of voters in all the races we've endorsed so far. So the big thing that I would take away is that, obviously the only thing that really matters is who shows up on Election Day, which is why we're really doubling down on our efforts to turn out the vote in support of our candidates.
All right. Now, Americans for Prosperity has a new round of endorsements. Can you outline those for us, Jacob?
Yeah, John, I'd love to. Real quick, just for anybody who's listening who might not know who we are at Americans for Prosperity, just kind of wanted to cover, that obviously, as you know, Americans for Prosperity Virginia is a grassroots organization. We focus on recruiting, training, and uniting with activists from all across Virginia to break down barriers that prevent individuals from reaching their full potential. We do that by engaging friends and neighbors on key issues and encourage them to take an active role in building a culture of mutual benefit where people succeed by helping one another. And as you mentioned, I'm the Director of Grassroots Operations, so my role within that is that I have the pleasure of working with an amazing team here at AFP Virginia and all of our activists across the Commonwealth to fight for policies that improve the lives of all Virginians. This year, what that's really looked like for us is supporting candidates that have shown an active leadership role on the top priorities to improve the lives of all those Virginians. Previously, we've already announced the endorsements of Senators Siobhan Dunavant, Glenn Sturdivant, Delegates Nick Freitas, Mike Webert, and Roxanne Robinson, as well as candidates for office Mary Margaret Castleberg, Randy Minshew, Scott Wyatt, and Gary Higgins. And I'm super, super excited this morning, John, to announce that we're actually rolling out 4 more endorsements today. Senator Steve Newman, Bill Stanley, Dave Suderline, and candidate for House of Delegates Paul Milday.
Wow, that's going to be big for Milday. I mean, Stanley doesn't really have any opposition, either does Steve Newman, right? So I mean, you're going to win those races. Who was number 3? Suderline?
Dave Suderline, yep.
Right, he's not going to get any opposition either. So all 3 of those are going to win. But the Milday endorsement, Paul's going to be on our show tomorrow. That race, many people see that as a toss-up, and Milday certainly can use any of the help that you can get. Why Milday?
So a couple of reasons. John. So first, obviously our organization supports candidates that we know are going to lead on these issues that are important for Virginians. We honestly see Paul Milday as a future leader in the General Assembly in terms of innovating healthcare, as well as also expanding access to quality and affordable care. And we also see him as someone who's going to be a champion on supporting smart on crime, soft on taxpayer criminal justice reform.
Okay, so let's get to the endorsements that you've made in competitive races. All right, basically what I've got as the competitive races. I personally don't think the Nick Freitas write-in campaign is going to be competitive. I think he's going to get 56%, 55%, but I'll put that in there simply because it's a write-in. But Senator Sturdivant, Gary Higgins in Loudoun County, Siobhan Dunavant, Richmond, Henrico, Mary Margaret Castleberg, Henrico, Paul Milday, and Nick Freitas. Those are the competitive races I see that you're trying to make an effort in. From an activist point of view, a grassroots point of view, like you take the Milday campaign, your endorsement of him today, what does that bring to the table for them? What does Americans for Prosperity endorsement bring to the table for them in the next 30 days before the election?
That's a great question, John. Thanks for asking. Honestly, so the biggest thing that we bring to the table is our full arsenal of grassroots operatives and grassroots activists in the Commonwealth to be able to help to support these policy champions to be able to be in a position in General Assembly to pass transformative policies. That includes doors and phones, obviously. We also have texting capabilities. We've been able to send a large number of texts as well. We also are able to do digital ad buys as well as also a direct mail strategy. So we really, in addition to our grassroots activists, also have a full gambit of other tactics that are going to make sure that these individuals are in the best position possible come November 5th.
And we're with Jacob Fish. Jacob is the director of Grassroots for Americans for Prosperity, the Virginia chapter. Jacob, how does Americans for Prosperity see the difference when you go in and you say you can do digital ads or you'll have a grassroots effort? Obviously, you have to work disassociated, right, with the campaigns because you can't be in coordination with them. So
that's correct, John.
They don't really know what you're doing, right? You just show up and knock on doors or you do digital ads. And then how do you measure what result you've gotten back, Jacob?
Yeah, and so as you mentioned, we don't work with the campaigns. There's no coordination involved, and so what we're really doing is utilizing our messaging and our tactics to target these individuals and support these policy champions that are going to be the leaders in the future on healthcare innovation and on criminal justice reform. We find that our messaging has been very, very effective. We've been able to mount a very large grassroots campaign so far, talking to voters about those issues, gauging where they're at on criminal justice reform, as well as also on healthcare innovation, and talking about how these individuals are going to be crucial in passing those transformative policies come 2020 and beyond. And we're seeing a lot of really good results on that. The voters at the door are very excited. Obviously, healthcare is a huge issue in Virginia, as it is across the country, and we're getting a lot of good feedback in terms of our messaging and how it's working, and we're looking really good come November 5th for all of these candidates that we've endorsed. Okay,
what of these races do you think you have the best chance of winning? Let's just break them down, Jacob, because obviously several of these are going to determine who is in control of the General Assembly come January. The Sturtevant campaign, a lot of polls are showing him down to Hashmi. How does Sturtevant, with your help, win this race?
Yeah, John. I mean, honestly, all the races, we endorse candidates based on our belief that they're going to be leaders in the General Assembly on making sure these policies pass. So we wouldn't endorse anybody if we didn't think that they had a chance to win. And so we're doubling down on all of these races. Specifically, you mentioned Glenn. We supported him back in June, and we're really committed to helping him across the finish line. We know that a lot of these races are super competitive. But we're really dedicated to leveraging our full grassroots support and other tactics such as digital ads and direct mail to make sure that all of our candidates, including Glenn, are successful in November.
Let me ask you something else, Jacob Fish. Americans for Prosperity Virginia chapter operates in Virginia. The advocates that you have and the grassroots workers you have, the supporters you have, which are over 400,000. It's the biggest activist organization in Virginia. These are Virginians. But what you're competing with is outside money from other people in other states. Like the Democratic candidates are getting just tens and tens of millions of dollars from out-of-state people that have no ties to Virginia whatsoever. How do you guys combat that?
Yeah, again, it's simply grassroots tactics, John. I think a lot of people are aware that a lot of the money is coming from outside the state, and it really comes down to making sure that we're having those face-to-face contacts at the door, and making sure we're having those individual contacts over the phones. And what we've seen so far is when we're able to talk to Virginians and we talk about how we are a grassroots organization and our volunteers are in Virginia, and they're the ones that are going to be most impacted by this race, because whoever ends up coming around and winning is going to be responsible for the legislation that comes out in 2020 and beyond. We're seeing a lot of really good feedback on that. And so I would maybe, not put as much pressure on the fundraising money being raised, because, that can help a lot with digital ads and with direct mail. But honestly, where we can kind of really come in and help out these candidates that we've designated as policy champions is with that door-to-door and phone and texting effort that really is going to make the difference in all of these races.
On the ground.
On the ground, yep. That's the best way to make sure we're talking to these voters is on the ground.
Jacob, I've been a fan and admirer of Americans for Prosperity, both nationally and in Virginia, for some time. And I've seen when you guys do make an effort and you can marshal your resources towards a common goal, you guys are exceedingly effective. I mean, I've seen it many times with my own eyes. If people out there want to get involved, not with a particular campaign, but they want to get involved with Americans for Prosperity because they like who you guys are backing and they see a way to get involved without directly having to go through a campaign, which is the way that a lot of people would prefer to do it, because sometimes you just don't want to deal with the campaign and you got all these layers. You guys don't work that way. It's so much easier. For our listeners now, if they want to get involved with Americans for Prosperity to make a difference, how do they do that?
Yeah, no, appreciate that question there, John. So, first thing is make sure, obviously, if you want to make a difference, is make sure that we're showing up on Tuesday, November 5th to continue to support and elect these policy champions that we've endorsed. That's the number one thing people can do right now. If they're looking to get involved, they can also sign up to take action at our website at americansforprosperity.org, and that'll direct them to our Virginia page, and we'll be able to get a hold of them from there. We also have digital ads running on Facebook and on Google, and so if they happen to see one of our ads, they can also sign up there. And again, we have a number of full-time staff all across the Commonwealth. We've got grassroots engagement directors up in Northern Virginia, in Hampton Roads, in Richmond, and Charlottesville, out in Southwest Virginia. And so if you happen to run into any of those at a meeting, definitely make sure to talk with them. They'd be happy to sit down with you and talk about our organization and how you can get involved. But again, that's a number of ways: visiting the website at americansforprosperity.org, talking to one of our engagement directors in the field, as well as also signing up on one of our digital ads if you happen to see those.
AmericansForProsperity.org. AmericansForProsperity.org. Let me ask you something else. You mentioned a couple of your key issues, justice reform being one of them. When I look at the Higgins campaign in Loudoun County, one of the big things that they're going to be railing against, John, their competitor there, Higgins competitor delegate John Bell, is the tolls in Loudoun County on I-66 and the fact that Bell actually carried that bill. Does Americans for Prosperity have any position on that, the tolls?
I'm not entirely sure, John. I think what we really focus on is transformative policies that are really going to improve the lives of all Virginians. So that's why we've decided to kind of throw a lot of our weight behind issues that have to do with larger deregulation, similar to the bill that Michael Everett was able to pass a couple of years ago, criminal justice reform, as well as also healthcare innovation. So I'm not 100% sure on that, John, but I'd be happy to look into it and get back to you.
And one of the healthcare innovations that you're a big proponent of is being able to go to a doctor via video or telecommunications. Can you I'm out of time, but just spend 30 seconds on that.
Yeah, just real quickly, what you're referring to is one version of healthcare innovation here is what we call telemedicine. And as you mentioned, it's the ability for you to be able to communicate with your doctor, whether that happens to be over video chat or it could be as simple as text or email, basically allowing for you to have more option of who it is you choose to have as your provider by being able to talk with them over a platform or a device. We were very successful in seeing a unanimous bill that was signed by the governor this past year, and we're looking forward to having even more success with these policy champions we've endorsed to pass continued healthcare innovation for all Virginians.
All right, man. Thank you. I want to thank Jacob Fish for being with us. Americans for Prosperity. He's there. Grassroots Director. Rolled out another set of endorsements today. Jacob, you guys keep up the good work, all right?
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, John.